Good evening. A woman's in custody tonight in Port Lincoln, charged with murder. The 34-year-old appeared in court via video link a short time ago, but her identity and that of the victim are the subject of strict secrecy orders.
Hello, welcome to Media Watch. I'm Linton Besser. And we turn first tonight to the tragic and gruesome killing of a man last month, which rocked the South Australian town of Port Lincoln and shot to the top of news bulletins. And what made editors really sit up and pay attention was learning the accused was a former reality TV star.
Scenes like out of a television show, but this is a small town's reality. A woman, once a star on this TV series,
The Beauty and the Geek,
arrested and charged with murder.
So when last month it was revealed that the victim had been beheaded and the Adelaide Magistrates Court lifted suppression orders which allowed, finally, the identity of the accused to be published, it was like pouring rocket fuel over the story.
She was once a reality TV beauty.
Okay, what's with the T-shirt?
But more than a decade on, Tamika Chesser is accused of an ugly crime. Julian Story's body discovered in the unit they shared a week ago. Chesser's accused of beheading and dismembering his body before setting it alight.
I can tragically say that we have not recovered the head of Julian Story.
And with what sense of care and decorum did Adelaide's big Daily Metro treat this tragedy?
where's his head?
Cops chase body part in Beauty and Geek slay.
And while it's true the police were seeking help in locating the body part, that demure page one prompted outrage from some of the paper's readers.
Writing to submit my disgust at headline in Saturday paper. The victim has a family. It's a disgrace.
Never in my 39 years have I read such a disgusting and insensitive headline.
How revolting for the family. I don't know anything about official media guidelines, but I do know that this stinks.
Turns out, though, the Tiser was just getting started. Because while Tamika Chesser might have appeared in court remotely from a mental health facility and was now awaiting trial for murder, she had spent years as an adult model with a shiny back catalogue just waiting to be mined.
A beauty and an ugly crime.
Not the Tamika we know.
A missing head and a town in shock.
For 5 consecutive days, like a pig in, well, shall we say mud, the Tiser dug up an interview with a former TV co-star, quotes from Tamika Chesser's still reeling relatives, and a dollop of horror from shocked neighbours. Even Tamika's former manicurist was given a Guernsey. And the following day, the paper turned back to the internet, retrieving a 16-year-old photograph of Tamika Chesser from her days as a grid girl, placing it delicately on page one, and compiling 30 other rather racy photographs in an online gallery for the gratification of all, which we'll resist showing you. The Advertiser is also ever diligent in the use of technology to find new readers, so it provided a clever little QR code to hammer the Tiser's favourite theme.
One question remains unanswered. Where is Julian Story's missing head?
Perhaps most galling is the very little regard the Tiser has shown the victim and his family. Because while readers were served up every possible detail of Tamika's life, from her teenage years in Queensland to her career on TV and as a model, Julian Story, allegedly murdered at her hand, has had barely more than a look in, beyond repeated reminders of his awful end. It fell to the Mayor of Port Lincoln to remind ABC local radio listeners of the very human toll.
Julian, he's lived here nearly all his life, and his mother is a very prominent volunteer in our community, beautiful lady. She's like family to me. The impacts are, reverberated everywhere.
She told Media Watch the headlines
show a disturbing disregard for the dignity of victims, the grief of their families, and the wider community's emotional well-being. Media has a responsibility to report with integrity and empathy. Sensationalism at the expense of basic human decency only adds to the trauma.
We asked the Advertiser to justify its handling of the story, but sadly it chose not to. The alleged murder of Julian Story, The dismembering of Julian's story must have arrived at the Tiser's news conference like a gift from the heavens. A scantily clad, vaguely recognisable celebrity accused of this macabre violence in a fishing town far from any capital city. But we think the Advertiser might have been wise to stay its hand at least a little, because overlooked in its frenzy are the shattered families at the centre of the tragedy, members of the newspaper's own readership no less, including those grieving a loved one. And now we turn to the entry into the Australian automotive market of a bold new Chinese-made ute.
This is the thing that's just about broken the internet. There's so much interest in it.
It is supremely grunty. You've got no shortage of punch at all in this car.
Last year, BYD brought the shark down under and, seeking to ingratiate itself to car buyers, began buttering up motoring writers at its lavish launch, complete with one Darryl Braithwaite standing in the back of a ute. But BYD's approach to public relations has a darker side too.
BYD sues 37 influencers over online defamation.
And has placed an additional 126 under internal monitoring for alleged disinformation and damaging content.
In China, write-ups deemed defamatory by BYD has seen it race off to court, launching legal action against the authors of those reviews, who have been slugged penalties worth tens of thousands of dollars. The carmaker has even established a dedicated tip-off line which offers informants
rewards ranging from 50,000 to 5 million yuan, approximately 6,900 to 690,000 US dollars, for verified leads related to suspected online disinformation targeting the company.
BYD has insisted it's not trying to quell legitimate criticism. Others are not so sure.
I am likely going to be barred entry from China permanently for making this video. I'm not a war reporter. I don't go to places in conflict. I don't cover political events. I talk about cars, for crying out loud.
In June, British motoring journalist James Martin tore the veil from BYD's attempts to establish a rather transactional relationship with those who review its cars.
This email here that I received in March from a company representing now BYD. We are hosting an exclusive launch event for the BYD Sea Lion 7. Also, I'd love to understand your, and this bit's in bold by the way, rates for potential collaboration, including content deliverables that would work best for you. It's pretty clear, isn't it? We want you to come to this event. We want you to say nice things. How much are you going to charge us?
Rather naked, no? Back home, BYD's new ute was put through its paces in the red dirt of South Australia's Flinders Ranges by veteran motoring journalist Toby Hagan, who handed down some gentle criticism of its fuel consumption before praising the hybrid offering.
Early indications are that this is a pretty solid thing. This is certainly very capable. It has been properly engineered.
And with his own review for carsales.com.au, another experienced motoring reporter, Bruce Newton, who also drove the car through the wilds of South Australia. Like Toby Hagan, he identified a few niggles: underdamped suspension, questionable towing capacity, but generally gave it the thumbs up.
I am genuinely shocked that BYD has done such a good job of its first ute.
Toby Hagan has also recommended the ute on ABC Radio.
That ute is pretty impressive. It's got about double the power of your average ute, more torque than most utes, or all of the mainstream utes on the market.
But keen eyes noticed the journalist's video reviews seemed eerily similar to BYD's own glossy marketing, also shot in the rugged outback. The very same footage, complete with local fauna, starred the very same ute. But what really set tongues wagging in the motoring world was the fact that these pictures were not the result of the commonplace press junket arranged by car companies. In fact, Toby Hagan and Bruce Newton had entered into what was previously a secret commercial arrangement with BYD and its Australian distributor. Through their own private companies, the freelance reporters accepted the offer of a job from BYD to arrange their own outback trip, provide the company their footage, be reimbursed for their expenses, and at the end of the day to trouser a handy little chunk of profit. And yet none of this arrangement had been declared to their audiences or their publishers. So when, several months ago, some of those outlets caught wind something was awry in the men's dealings with BYD, they suspended their relationship with the writers. News.com.au told us it has not published Toby Hagen's articles since March, and Victoria's RACV said it no longer engages Bruce Newton or Toby Hagen.
Independence and our members' and customers' trust is at the core of RACV and has been for 122 years. We confirm the journalists referenced are no longer engaged by RACV for any future work.
Both carsales.com.au and the ABC are now examining the revelations. In a joint response, Toby Hagen and Bruce Newton confirmed their private companies, Accelerate Media and Mumbo Media, had entered into a commercial deal with BYD and its distributor.
In October-November 2024, at the request of BYD Australia, EV Direct, Accelerate Media and Mumbo Media, organised and paid for an Outback Media drive in the BYD Shark 6. BYD Australia, EV Direct, subsequently paid the agreed fee and gained access to images and video. There was no BYD EV Direct oversight or influence on any editorial produced.
The pair declined to reveal how much money they made from the deal. While BYD told us the agreement was not about trying to skew coverage in its favour.
Any suggestion that BYD paid money to influence the coverage of its car or editorial input into the car review is categorically false and misleading.
Toby Hagen and Bruce Newton are two experienced journos, and we have no evidence before us to cast doubt on the authenticity of their reviews of the BYD vehicle. But the untidiness of this affair and the fact that both men are still reluctant to set out precisely their upside from the deal has cast a pall over their relationship with readers and publishers. Lavish press junkets in which motoring journalists are whisked about the globe in great style may be commonplace, but it's another thing entirely when some of the cash being splashed about finds its way into the journalist's back pocket. Finally tonight, we turn to the red tape throttling Australia's university sector.
Universities say they're preparing students for the future. They're not. Michael Burgess, Strategic Advisor.
In late May, the Australian Financial Review brought us this full-throated rallying cry, an opinion column warning a new frontier of productivity and economic growth was being put at risk by universities which
remain trapped in outdated governance structures and risk-averse cultures.
The wordsmith, Michael Burgess, cut to the point with this takedown of our timid and much-cowed tertiary education sector.
A significant barrier to progress is our obsession with compliance. Fear of regulatory consequences has created a culture of caution over courage.
So who is Michael Burgess?
Michael Burgess is a strategic advisor to Chegg, a global edtech company.
Chegg was once a superstar stock pick and darling of the education industry, a technology company which offered study tips and other resources to students, but which was also famous among overworked undergraduates for delivering an almost foolproof means by which to cheat on their homework. Chegg has insisted that this constitutes a misuse of its platform, which it discourages, but not a small number of students have rejoiced in uploading questions to its paid subscription website before, voila, receiving the correct answer in minutes. But since the introduction of ChatGPT, which has made academic cheating a breeze, and far cheaper by the way, Chegg's share price has plummeted.
Customers don't want to pay Chegg for test and homework answers anymore when ChatGPT and others give them away for free.
Meanwhile, Michael Burgess's declamation in The Fin focused on the compulsive submissiveness of universities which, he wrote, must
stop treating AI as a compliance risk.
Also absent from this stirring call to action was a minor detail, the fact that the Australian government's tertiary education watchdog had, 7 months prior, accused Chegg of providing, yes, you guessed it, an academic cheating service, which the Sydney Morning Herald reported a few weeks later.
The Tertiary Education Quality and Standards Agency alleges that this service has violated Australia's anti-cheating laws.
Chegg has assured the court its service exists not to help students cheat on assignments, but merely to aid in their learning. Michael Burgess has not been accused of any wrongdoing himself, but wasn't any of this dispute at least somewhat relevant to readers of his commentary in the Australian Financial Review? We sent questions to Burgess and to Chegg. A company spokesperson told us,
the current case before the courts involves alleged academic misconduct by 5 Australian users of Chegg out of approximately 100,000 in this country. The op-ed written by Mr Burgess did not comment on this case, nor would it be appropriate to do so while legal proceedings are ongoing.
Meanwhile, the AFR's editor said the newspaper had been unaware of the court case when it agreed to accept the op-ed.
If we had been aware of it, we would have thought twice about running the piece.
For the 74 years that the Australian Financial Review has charted a course through the country's financial and political markets, it has never been shy about championing entrepreneurialism over stuffy regulatory instincts. After all, they do tend to get in the way of making oodles of money. But the integrity of our university system might also be a cause to get behind. After all, as our 4th largest export industry, it's also a handy little earner. And that's all from us tonight. Be sure to check us out on ABC iView, as well as X, YouTube and Facebook. You can find full statements on our website. And don't forget to send us your tips. I'll see you next week.